We have never come close to seeing a president do this many unprecedented things in this many unprecedented areas that will echo for generations to come. I'm Jim VandeHei, CEO of Axios.
And I'm Mike Allen, co-founder of Axios. Jim, why the unprecedented presidency matters is that future presidents are going to take what he's done, pocket it, and go one step further.
Every future president will use these precedents the way that they want to expand their own power. So I always tell my Republican friends or my Trump friends, if you like that, you damn well better like it when AOC does it to you. Good example. You and I just wrote about it. I'm just going to read these, but just imagine that a president or a presidential candidate had declared this previously, or even put it in these words now. 1, presidents and their family members, unlike other U.S. citizens, shall be granted lifetime immunity from federal audits and criminal investigations for their past tax returns. He did that. His Justice Department did that, is doing it for his family. Presidents and their family can maintain active ownership of global business empires, profiting from government decisions that benefit them and benefit their businesses, in this case to the tune of billions of dollars. And 3, presidents while in office can maintain massive personal crypto and stock portfolios that they can benefit from when they leave office.
President Trump just doesn't care. And so he feels none of the constraints that every other president you and I have covered has felt. His predecessors always thought, we can't do that because of the midterms. We can't do that because of the presidential election. Here it's how much you can get, how fast. So President Trump is now worth $6 billion, according to Forbes. That's gone up $1 billion each of the last 3 years. If you go Trump and family, Bloomberg says $8 billion, and that's just going to keep going up.
And that's that's not the way it's been. Everyone's like, well, isn't everyone a crook in Washington? Doesn't everyone
Or you
profit
cash
off of it?
in after.
Most presidents would be would be ashamed if they did a lot of these things. And President Trump just feels differently about it. But people just need to be thinking about, do you want your president steering policy, making decisions, intervening with companies in a way that benefit them? And you always have to look at it through the lens of, imagine it's not somebody on your team, somebody you like. It's somebody on the other side benefiting from policies you don't like, working with companies or individuals that you find unsavory.
And how about the insurance policies that President Trump is building in? He plans to pardon a lot of the people around him. Wall Street Journal had a great story by Josh Doss. He's saying the president said in a meeting that anyone who would come within 200 feet of the Oval Office would get a pardon. And the funny thing about this is, and it's very Trumpian, very Trump maximalism, a few months ago he had joked about the same thing, only then he said 10 feet. So it keeps growing.
Yeah, and he's not joking, I think, and he has the power to do that. Like, presidents can pardon anyone, and he can pardon people retroactively and going forward, and he intends to do that, and people should assume they'll do that. And again, is that what you want the political opposition in your mind doing? The next category is retribution. We've never seen a president use the levers of power, particularly the Justice Department, blatantly to go after anybody who's criticized him, anybody who tried to prosecute him, anybody who's kind of on their hit list of people they don't like. And they do it in public. They don't try to hide it. They do it in the courts. We've never seen it before.
In this retribution tour, not only has President Trump put pressure on federal prosecutors to go after his former enemies, but people have been pushed out and fired because they weren't doing it fast enough. So the president went after Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, who had brought civil charges against Trump.
New York Attorney General Letitia James seen leaving court there. Right before this shot, she stood in front of a judge to say she's not guilty to federal charges of bank fraud.
James Comey, Trump's own FBI director, who had investigated his campaign over Russia ties, indicted twice. The most recent over the charge that he made threat against Trump in Seychelles. Comey came out and said, I'm still innocent.
And it's not just individuals, right? They've used the Justice Department. They've used the tools of the presidency to go after universities, to go after media companies, to go after law firms. And Some of it's direct, some of it's indirect, but it's been very, very clear that he wants media company deals only done if they're favorable in their coverage of him. He wanted universities who he felt were too woke to have to cut deals with them and change everything from how they thought about DEI policy to some of their curriculum. And we've just not seen presidents at this scale, this velocity, using the tools of the presidency to go after individuals, to go after individual sectors, to go after individual companies. And that is a precedent that if someone else wants to use, they could say, hey, he did it.
Yeah, and that's the private sector. That's the amazing part of this. So when you look at universities, when you look at media, when you look at law firms being pressured, squeezed, punished.
Thanks so much for watching Behind the Curtain. We're going to take a moment to hear from our sponsor, Accenture, and Accenture CEO, Julie Sweet.
I'm very excited about our reinvention story today, which is literally 160 years in the making.
The reinvention was trying to bring a company into the trends of the future.
The third category is pay me capitalism. This one, in some ways, I'm never surprised anymore that conservatives go along with what Trump does, but the idea that they're okay with him cutting deals with U.S. Steel or taking shares of companies.
They would have said that was socialism.
It is socialism, right? When you have the state taking stakes, picking winners and losers inside of an industry, and then helping them, and then giving them benefit protection or giving them government protection.
Yeah, in some cases saving them.
In some cases saving them. But man, that's a dangerous road to go down. I mean, even Democrats have been really hesitant to get too involved in trying to dictate which company should win, which company should lose. But he's routinely doing it. And sometimes there are genuine reasons for the government to help in a specific industry. There's reasons things like the CHIPS Act covered an entire industry. Anybody could utilize it. In this case, what's different is he's basically going in and taking stakes or dictating deals with specific companies, right? He's calling in NVIDIA and cutting deals with the CEO for his company that worked at his company's benefit. Well, he has competitors.
Taking a stake in Intel, looking at do you rescue Spirit Airlines, which wound up not happening. And the most fascinating one, for a year, OpenAI had been raising the idea of could the government take a stake in us, looking at it as a way to sort of buy protection, like send the signal that the public could benefit from AI. That got a cold shoulder for a year, but now twice in a week, President Trump has said, I might look at this idea.
And he probably will do it. Like, he's been very clear that he would want to. And you could say, well, whatever, these companies, they took all of our information, they turned it into LLMs, therefore they should share the wealth. But then how are you going to define what an AI company is? Is it OpenAI? Is it Anthropic? Is it Google? Is it Microsoft?
Yeah, what's your cutoff?
Amazon? What is your cutoff? And then what percentage are you going to take in each of these companies? In the case of OpenAI and Anthropic, they don't make money. Right. So they might end up being worth trillions and trillions of dollars, and they both will IPO and probably will be worth north of $1 trillion. But it's also possible that one or both of them go belly up at some point because they're part of a bubble. We have no idea. And that's the danger when you have the federal government interfering in industry, especially with specific businesses. They have competitors. I think most businesses just want to know that, hey, we have a sort of a set of rules that we're going to be playing by for hopefully a durable amount of time so that we can make decision planning. If you have to worry about whether the president's going to come in and take a share of your company or start to dictate what you're going to do in terms of your behavior, either internally here in the U.S. or externally when you're dealing with China, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and when we talk about the unprecedented presidency and we talk about things that have been never done in 250 years, you can think about it, the Obama test, right? You say to a Republican, what if President Obama had talked about this? What if President Obama had done this? There would have been a revolt.
A revolt. And then the final category, which might be the most important, is this idea of expanding executive power. And maybe you're yawning and like, I don't want to talk about executive power. Executive power matters. The White House is becoming way more powerful than Congress, at the expense of Congress, at the expense of judiciary. And so one of the most fascinating charts that I've seen is this line that shows the number of laws signed by President Trump, which is going down, almost historic lows, but then the number of executive orders historically high. And that's because he doesn't like the nuisance of dealing with Congress. He wants to just do executive orders and make decisions on his own. And then he takes things like tariffs, which the Constitution outlines to be in the hands of Congress, and says, the hell with it. I'm going to do it my way. I'll go to court. I lose in the Supreme Court. I'll find a workaround, which he's doing now.
Same thing with spending. Like one of the first things that you learn in civics is Congress has the purse strings, not in this administration where he's making those decisions. And Axios asked Speaker Johnson on stage, you've ceded this authority. You fine with future Speaker, probably Hakeem Jeffries, like having that authority? Other places that President Trump has expanded executive muscle. The Fed used to be totally independent. Now he is putting his thumb on the scale there. He's reined in the watchdogs that have been deployed across government, inspector generals, and he's gotten rid of a lot of civil servants. Like all the time that you and I have been covering politics, presidents knew there was only so much they could do because for all the political appointees they have, the vast part of the government outlives them. That's another place President Trump is saying, why not?
There's a reason that we fled England. There's a reason that the United States was created. The idea of we don't want so much power vested in the hands of one person, and in this case, one person in one institution. And Trump did not start this. I want to be very clear. President Obama took executive orders to a different level. Joe Biden used executive orders on things like wiping away student debt that undoubtedly should be in the hands of Congress. But Trump, like everything, takes it and just put it on steroids. And why people need to worry is just keep this trajectory going. And imagine you get somebody that you don't like on the other side, a socialist on the other side, and they use the tools that Trump has used of government to really sort of solidify the power of the federal government over every part of society, over every industry. Like that's not an inconceivable trend. And that's why I think precedents matter. I think that's why sort of this division of power has always mattered. It's always been messy, always been slow, but 250 years in, it's kind of worked.
And President Trump is just getting started. 500 days of this term down, close to 1,000 left to go.